Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by Marketing 360. My good friend JB Kellogg and his team do such a fantastic job for us and so many other companies. Marketing 360 is the number one platform for small business, and it's everything you need to grow your business. If you need marketing support, I really encourage you to contact them at marketing360.com/Riderflex, and we'll add that link to the description of this episode for easy reference. On today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, we have guest Helen Raleigh. She's a certified board candidate, wealth management expert, immigration policy guru, author, and international speaker. She's also the co-founder and CEO of Red Meadow Advisors. I really enjoyed my conversation with Helen. I think you will too. Helen Raleigh on the Riderflex podcast today. How you doing, Helen?
I'm great. How are you, Steve?
Well, I'm hanging in there. You know, we're recording this on April 14th, 2020. So a little bit of a crazy time for us right now, isn't it?
It is, but it's also a good opportunity for us to take the time to reflect on what's important in life and spending more time with people we love and care. So take this as an opportunity as well.
You know, that's so refreshing. I've been really challenging my friends and family lately to just stay positive, just stay positive, positive energy, man. Come on, positive energy. Sometimes I'm talking to people and they're like, oh, doom and gloom. And I just tell them, stop it. I don't want to hear that. Positive energy. Come on. And you're right. There's so many things that there are some silver linings in here, right? For the listeners,
Yes.
by the way, if the listeners are hearing this a year from now, we're in the middle of the coronavirus and a lot of us are trapped at home. And there's some positive things. One, for example, is I see more families and couples walking down the street together in my neighborhood than I've ever seen, ever.
Yes. You see your neighbor more often.
Yes.
The weather has been nice. You get to go outside to breathe fresh air more often. You get to sleep in a little more. None of us have plenty of, get enough sleep. So There's so many good things. But most important thing is you get to spend time with people you love and care. That's something we don't do enough. So I really take this with a good stride that this is an opportunity just to slow down and really enjoy and embrace it.
I couldn't agree more. I've been in the same house now 24 hours a day with my wife for like 26 days in a row. If you were to ask me 6 months ago if I could do that, I'd probably say no without her killing me. But, surprisingly, like we're getting along just fine. Like I'm amazed at how, we're just getting along just as well as we always have. So anyway, kind of a crazy time. So before we get into career and entrepreneurial stuff, can you give us a little personal history? Tell us about you, your family, where you grew up, maybe some personal stuff, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. I'm an immigrant from China, an American by choice. I was born and raised in communist China. I grew up there, and I came here as a graduate school student. So most of my family were still back in China. I came here all by myself. I didn't know anyone. I came here just to go to school. So yes, wow. I was all by myself, and I had less than $100 in my pocket. And I didn't know how I was going to make it. So I found 3 part-time jobs where I was enrolled as a full-time graduate school student. So the 3 jobs I had, I worked at the Chinese restaurant as a waitress. I was a tutor at the school, so I tutored in math. Okay. I also worked at the school's computer lab as a help desk assistant. Even though I didn't know anything about computer, but I learned quickly that if you just tell people to reboot when they have a problem, it'll fix 99% of the problem.
Now is this when you were going to Wyoming to get your MBA?
No, I had 2 master's degrees in the United States. So the MBA at the University of Wyoming was my second master. My first master was in upstate New York. I got a master's degree in business economics.
I see. Okay. Okay. So your first stop from China was upstate New York. Whereabouts?
It's a small town between Albany and Binghamton called Oneonta.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good. Okay. So you're working 3 jobs, going to grad school. I guess your English was good, huh?
It was okay back then.
Oh, wow. That was that super scary not knowing? I mean, that had to, wow. Did you have some sleepless nights where you're crying yourself to sleep? Not to get too emotional, but I just can't even imagine.
It was very scary. But what helped sustain me was the love and support from my family.
Mm,
Back then, the internet was not as prevalent as we're having today.
right.
And so you have to make international phone calls, which was very expensive. It
I
cost
remember.
$3 per minute. So obviously I couldn't afford it. So I didn't get to talk to my family very often. So what my family did was everybody in my family took turns to write me a letter. So every week I would receive a letter from someone from my
Wow.
family.
Wow.
The letter was always full of encouragement. They keep me updated about what's going on. Like my brother got married and they had a baby, all the things I missed, they kept me updated. And also my parents were really cute. I would also write them back, and then they would critique about how I'm losing my Chinese abilities, like I have misspelled words in my letters. So they try to make sure I do not
Uh,
forget about
uh,
my Chinese. So my dad would cut Chinese poems from Chinese newspapers and send it to me to make sure I still remember Chinese.
how about that? Now, did your parents speak English?
No, they do not.
So how, did you learn English in high school before you came over? Is that how did that work? I'm just curious.
So yes, I learned English in high school and college when I was
Okay.
in China.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. All right. So you're in upstate New York. You're working 3 jobs. You're going to grad school. Did you and then did you have a plan? Did you know what you wanted to be and what you wanted to do?
I pretty much made up as I was going, because, like I said, I was the first one from my family to come here. So I basically have to chart a whole new territory. Nobody can guide me to say how I'm going to go about this.
Wow.
And one thing that was very helpful was that I also became a Christian one
Ah.
year after I arrived in upstate New York. So that helped the faith at the church really was a tremendous support in addition
Mm.
to my family. And when I graduated from the upstate New York with the master degree in business economics, I I was told that my only career path was to become a teacher, a professor. And I didn't really want to become a teacher or professor back then. So
Okay.
that's when I went to Wyoming, pursued the MBA degree, because I really want to get into the business. I really want to work in the business and make money and get into someday maybe have my own business. I was so focused on that's where I wanted to go. So it took me 3 days and 3 nights riding a Greyhound bus from upstate New York to Laramie, Wyoming to start my second master degree.
Wow. And okay, now let me just take a pause there. Laramie, Wyoming is like a completely different planet from probably anything you had ever seen or been around, right? I mean,
Yes.
completely different culture. I mean, wow. Holy cow. That must have, I can't imagine
Yeah,
what
it was.
I can't imagine what your first week must have been like there.
Well, forget about first week, talk about first 5 minutes, because from upstate New York to Wyoming, I talk about riding 3 days and 3 nights. So
Right.
you just see the scenery changes from very crowded city
Yeah.
to very open space. But then also, Wyoming is a beautiful state. So you see blue skies, you don't see a
Yeah.
lot of people. And I remember when the bus dropped me off at the Greyhound bus station, it was outside of Laramie. It was such a small building too. I was just totally shocked. I kept asking myself, what have you done? But it wasn't. It turned out much nicer than I imagined. The the owner of a bed and breakfast came to pick me up with his pickup truck. So the first time I had to climb into a pickup truck, I was secretly praying that he would not murder me. And he was really nice. It was just so many unknowns. Nowadays I'm looking back, it was scary. But back then I was just fearless. Just like, you know what? I'm charting my own fate. This is my own destiny. This is where I wanted to go. I'm just gonna go for it.
I love it. I mean, wow, that's some story. Yeah, you got to be awful brave to do that. Yeah, I can't. I'm visualizing you climbing into that pickup truck, thinking, "Okay, I don't know if this is going to be okay."
Yes.
And yeah. And by the way, for all the people from Wyoming listening to this podcast, hey, Wyoming is great when the wind's not blowing and it's not 2 degrees. Wyoming's awesome, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. University of Wyoming is wonderful.
Yeah. So, okay. So you get to Wyoming, all right? You get another, and this time you get your MBA in finance. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. All right. Were you always good with numbers and everything? Was that your specialty?
Generally speaking, yeah, I'm pretty good with numbers.
Okay.
I also like writing, but back then I didn't see a career as a writer. So I decided to go for the business route.
Okay. All right. So you get your second master's and you spend a couple of years in Wyoming. Then what happens? Tell me, walk us into your career now. Go ahead.
Sure. So right before I graduated from University of Wyoming, I went to Denver for a job interview. I was hired back then. Citibank has a credit card operation in Denver. So they hired me, offered me my very first job. And I remember the group I work with was all men. So I remember my boss told me I was the first one without beard that he ever hired. and he told me, he said, there are only 3 people in the finance world: the former Citibanker, the current Citibanker, and the future Citibanker. And that turned out to be true. Everywhere I go since then, everybody I met, they either work at a Citibank before, or they currently work at a Citibanker, or sometime in the future they would work for the Citibank. It was a very interesting experience.
So still no family, and now you probably had made some friends at that time, I'm guessing. But when you moved from Wyoming, from Laramie to Denver to take that job, by yourself, just by yourself? Were you all alone?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. You were? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So for every time I moved to a new place, I was always the only person moved there, and then I would start making friends and meeting people. And one thing I have to say is, many times, like I said, I have to just make up the plan as I go. And at the same time, I'm incredibly blessed by meeting many, many generous and kind people. I wouldn't be here if not for many, many generous and kind people. People I met from church, my neighbors, and people from work. They taught me many, many things. And whenever I need help, they're always there. So from that perspective, I am very blessed. I was never really alone at the same time.
Were you looking for other people from China to hang out with, just so you could have something in common? Were you like trying to find other, of course, back then in 1999, it wasn't like you could just go on Facebook and join a group,
Well, I didn't specifically seek out Chinese people. I just want to make friends to anyone who's interested. But one thing good about Denver was back then, Denver has one Chinese grocery store.
Oh.
Which was, if you're homesick, you can take a girl out of China, but you cannot take China out of a girl. So that's the grocery store where you can buy, when you're homesick, you can go buy ingredients, you can go buy the vegetable you miss it to make a home meal. So that's something that's really helped too.
I see. Okay. All right. So cool. You spent 6 years at Citibank, I think, right?
Yeah, close to that, 6 years. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and walk us through a little bit more of your career before we get into your current business. Yeah, go ahead. I'm just curious. Go ahead.
Sure. So at the Citibank, because it's an international bank, I was able to do many amazing projects, like launching credit cards and learning about the credit risk, and formulate the strategies, the risk management strategies. And from there, I was offered a job by Daimler Chrysler in Michigan. and also working for their financial division. So I had a second cross-country trip. I moved from Denver to Michigan. And from there, I get to do another amazing sets of projects too, like launching bring the smart car to the US, and also helped during the financial crisis. I was a part of the project team to basically help the divorce between Daimler and the Chrysler. So it's a giant, messy financial project, but it was really a great learning experience as well.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
great.
from there,
Yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead.
And then from there, I got another job offer back to Denver to working for the state pension fund. And so that's another, so I basically, my whole career, I've been moving from different segments but still within this financial services umbrella. Okay. So I had a lot of experiences throughout this financial services industry, through credit cards, risk management, global branding, marketing, and the investment and the pension. So I have in the last 20 years, I've been moving through this entire industry through many, many different sectors.
I'm guessing that you jumped at the chance to move back to Denver after having lived in Detroit for a little while, right? Were you thinking, oh yeah, I got to get back to Denver?
I don't want to badmouth about the Detroit.
Okay, we won't do that. All right. So anyway, so tell me, after a very successful career, at some point you said, I want to jump out and start my own thing. Talk to us about your decision around being an entrepreneur and starting Red Meadow Advisors. Go ahead.
Sure. Red Meadow Advisors is a mission-driven business, because I think, looking back at my own experience as immigrant, I came here with nothing. There was literally nothing. I had less than $100 in my pocket. And I got an education, I got a good job, I saved and invested. And basically, I'm looking back at my own journey, I realized that, it's not the circumstances will determine how your life's gonna turn out. It's your attitude, it's your value, it's what really drives you, and it's your actions. It's really your behavior, it's your actions. So when I was working at the state pension fund, I realized I could do better. This is something I'm really passionate about. And also I have the experience, I have life's experience to share, I have the knowledge and the life experience to share. So I decided to start a mission-driven business, which is the Red Meadow Advisors. I emphasize on my website, my mission through this business is to help other people achieve financial freedom that they desire. So, because to me, freedom is the driving value. I came from a country that's not free, that you do not get to choose how you want to live your life, what you can say or do. So to me, freedom is important. I want to help other people to achieve the financial freedom, so they get to live the life they want to. They get to determine their own destiny. So that is how I started Red Meadow Advisor, as a mission-driven business.
And who's a typical client for you? Like, I mean, walk us through like your target client and things like that. Go ahead.
Well, I'm willing to help anyone who wants to help and who needs to be helped. Most of my clients actually are women. I didn't set out to help women only, but it turns out that women love to work with women, and also there's a lot of financial needs for women, because women live longer, women are getting more educated, are making more money, and yet our industry, the financial services industry, is very male driven. And so many women share with me experience that there is similar experiences. For example, when they and their spouse went to visit a financial advisor, usually is a guy, and the guys always say, "Oh, honey, don't worry about it. Your husband and I will talk about this, and we'll figure it out. You just, you just rest." And so most women do not like that.
I could no.
Yes, they want to be actively involved, and so once they know there's a female advisors like me who's working with them, and I always very patient. I spend a lot of time educating my client, and because also because most of my clients are women, we talk about more than just finances. We talk about life. We talk about things we concerns in their life, since we share joys, we share sorrows, and so all my clients are friends of mine too.
You're like a therapist. So
friends.
you're a therapist. Do you charge them an additional
Yeah.
fee to be a therapist?
No, I do not. I do not do that. But I just value this relationship because to me it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's enriching. This kind of relationship enriching both of us. Me and my clients at the same time. When I experience challenges in my life, they are always there for me too. So, and this is what I like as a entrepreneur. Yes, I take the risks. I manage my own schedule. I manage my own business. But at the same time, I get to choose who I want to work with,
right,
and establish a great relationship that way. And one thing I learned from throughout this whole pandemic is really nothing else matters. It's the time you spend with people you care, you love, is the most important thing there is. Nothing else really matters.
When you said help clients reach financial freedom, what's your definition of that?
So it depends on the clients, right? For some people, if they have $1 million, they'll finally free to get to do what they want. For some people, maybe 500,000 is enough. For some, so it's not exactly a dollar figure. It's really, I always ask my clients, we talk about the dreams and aspirations. What do you want to achieve in life? What are your goals? And then based on your goals, what do you want to achieve in life? Then we identify what are the financial barriers, what are the things prevent you to get there. Then we make a plan from there to help you get there. So for everybody, their aspirations and goals in life are different. So to them, the definition, how can they get there, that financial freedom is different too. But the feeling is the same. When you have that financial freedom, when money is not an object, you can do whatever you want to do, and live a meaningful life. You have that financial freedom. So I always tell my client, financial freedom is not a dollar figure, it's a mentality. When you feel free, that you have that financial freedom.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't think I realized that when I was younger, but as I get older, I think of it that way. I think of it as if I'm able to just do certain things I like to do, it's not necessarily a dollar figure I'm after. You know what I mean? If you were to ask, if you were to ask me to define financial freedom, I would say, be an entrepreneur so that I could, do what I wanted to without having an immediate boss. I want to be able to go camping on Friday afternoons in my Jeep and go camping in the mountains whenever I want to without having to ask somebody, and have a cold beer and eat pizza whenever I want. Like that's my financial freedom.
Sure. Yeah. Everybody has their own definitions, but it's a mentality, right? It takes experience. Totally it takes some guidance to reach that mentality.
Experience, I think, is a key word that you just mentioned there. For me, it is about chasing experiences, not material things. You know what I mean? And I heard somebody, it wasn't my quote, but I heard a young lady say one time, she said, I want my life to be about the experiences I'm chasing, not about the material things that I gather. I thought that's pretty powerful. Now, when I hear wealth management, which is one of the things you provide at Red Meadow Advisors, every time I see that, right? I know there's a lot of people that do that for a living. Every time I see that, I always think to myself, well, okay, well, I guess that's not me. I guess I shouldn't call her because I'm not independently wealthy. So I guess I wouldn't be a client for her. Talk to us about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's about a mentality, and I can't emphasize this enough. It's about behavior and it's about a mentality. I have a client. A client who was a gold miner. He's in his 80s. He was a gold miner.
Really?
He never made more than $50,000 in his entire life. Yet, and his wife would never worked. Yet they raised 3 children, and he's comfortably retired. They have no debt, and he just, his only leisure was, besides take care of his garden and spend time with his wife, his only treat for himself was once in a while goes to the Black Hawk, to play a few hands. But he lives such a comfortable life. He
Right.
has no debt, he has no worries, and that is a mentality. And we talked about this earlier. You want some free advice. The advice is really common sense. You spend less than what you make. You always save for the rainy days, and you invest for the long term. Do not let any emotional or external events to determine, to cloud your judgment. All these are common sense stuff. I actually wrote a book. It's a very short book called Invest Like a Zen Master. So many people say,
invest like a Zen master. Okay.
yeah, it's available on Amazon. So
Okay.
it's not at the forward, I mentioned that this book is not about any secret hot stock tips. It's really about help you establish this Zen master-like mentality. And if you can reach that, focus on long-term, live below your means, spend less than what you make, and always think of saving for the rainy days, you will achieve that financial freedom. You will achieve that wealth, over the long term.
I want to come back to the word wealth management for a minute, but first I want to mention something. The common sense that you talked about. I'm always amazed when I meet people or I'm around somebody that is completely leveraged and they just don't have any extra cash to do things. Perfect example. It's a true story. A friend of mine, we're over at his house. He's got a brand new fifth wheel camper sitting out back. He's got some other new toys sitting around. He spent a bunch of money on some other things, material things that were at his place. And I said, hey man, let's get the wives and go to dinner Friday night. And he goes, oh yeah, we really just don't have the money right now. And have to wait till payday. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Like you don't have the money you can't just go to dinner because you are so leveraged. Meanwhile, you got all these toys sitting around in your yard. I just shook my head. I said, what are you doing, man? Like I said, you better check yourself. You're not living in the right way.
Yeah. That's really personal choices, right? So wealth management is really life management. It's really behavior management. Yeah. If you do not choose the right path, the material thing, that's why I'm saying wealth is not measured by a dollar figure. The material things do not represent wealth, because like you mentioned, your friend, he's so leveraged that he doesn't have the free financial freedom, right? He's not wealthy because he's constantly worried about how to pay for the next bill. So those things he acquired doesn't really bring him joy. So if you do not live in a joyful, free life, you are not wealthy. At least not wealth in the way we're talking about the mentality.
That's great stuff. That is great stuff, Helen. Really good stuff there. Back to the wealth management word though. So can I afford you? My question is, you don't have to mention your prices on the podcast, but when I see people that say, hey, I'm a wealth management advisor, I just immediately think, well, I can't afford I'm not rich enough to hire somebody like that. Do you have to be a millionaire to be one of your clients, or can a regular person call you? What are your thoughts?
Any regular person. Yeah. Any regular person can call me, and I have my website, contact information on my website, redmeadowadvisors.com. And so I can just give you a little quick examples. So I provide two types of services. One type of services is called financial planning. So if you just want some guidance to say, okay, help me make a plan. This is what I want to do. Show me what do I need to do to get there. I can create a financial plan for you. And that is a fee. I'm a fee only advisor. So that will come with hourly fee. And we always negotiate the hourly fee in advance. So it will not become a shock at the very end, when you have the plan. So if you just want a financial planning service, I can help you create a plan, basically a roadmap, what you can do from now from now on to help you get to where you want to be to achieve that freedom. And you take this, you go implement, yourself. So that's one way. Another way is if you like my plan, you say, you know what, I want you to help me manage the money. I want you to manage my retirement. I want you to manage my money I save for the next house, for a college investment. So I can do that, and I charge my fee is a percentage based on asset under management. So let's say, for example, if it's 1% and if you have $100,000, that would be $1,000. The percentage is on an annual basis. So it's not super expensive. Actually, many advisors are pretty much in line with what I do, are affordable. But a couple things you have to watch out when you talk to a potential advisor that you want to work with. You should always ask about the fee. Yes, the cost. You should ask about the cost, whether they charge a fee only or it's a combination of fee and the commission. So you need to figure out how they want to be paid. And so that's one thing. And second thing is, by the way, I give all these tips in the book, Invest Like a Zen Master, because you want to choose the real master, not the fake master, right? So you should always know how much it's going to cost you and how you're going to be able to pay for the cost of the service. But the second thing, which is even more important than the first one, is make sure understand if they actually going to take your money. What I mean is, so in the state of Colorado, there's extra scrutiny for advisors who not only invest their clients' money, but actually take a custody of their clients' money. Okay. Like in my case, I do not take a custody of my clients' money. So I work with a brokerage firm. So when a client want to work with me, they actually open their account with the brokerage firm. So they deposit their money there. So all the client authorize me to do is to access their account to make investment decisions.
I see.
But I cannot take money out of their account.
I see.
So this way can prevent the Bernie Madoff situation. Bernie Madoff, he was able to defraud millions of dollars to his clients because he actually take custody of the client's money. He's the one taking the money and also produce fake reports. So his clients had no way to verify, is my accounts really, increased 20-30% last month? They have no way to verify because he's the one provide all the information. So the way I make the arrangement is I do not take custody of a client's money. So this way, the clients have a separate relationship with the brokerage. They can access their money whenever they want to, and they can also see the brokerage will provide them with monthly reports, and then I will provide my clients with quarterly reports, so they can match with the numbers, to see if there's any differences between the numbers. And if they don't like me, they can fire me, and they still have custody of their own money. So I do not have custody of their money. So that's a safety measure. Not every investment advisors do that. So it's very important that when you go out shopping for investment advisor, not only you should know how much they cost, but also make sure you understand what's the custody arrangements.
I see.
Does the advisor take custody of your money? If they do, 9 out of 10 times, I suggest you go the other way.
Okay.
Run.
Okay.
But if they don't take the custody of the client money, then maybe you want to have that. To me, that's a good sign. You want to have a further conversation with them.
Oh, that is great advice for the listeners. Thank you for sharing that. When you stepped out, by the way, to start your own business, was it super scary? I mean, talk to us about that moment when you just did you just quit your job and say, I'm going to do my own thing? And when you did start, did you have a client right away, or walk us through that scary transition?
Well, it was scary when I decided to give up a comfortable job. I want to start my own business. Unfortunately, I have my husband who's very supportive, and he was really encouraging. He encouraged me to do this. He knows that I will do well. And I also, honestly, Steve, it's not the most scary thing I have ever done. Given that I came to this country all by myself with nothing in my pocket, not sure where am I going, didn't know anyone. So this is not, at least I started at a much better position than when I started 20 years ago. And so when I first started, I did not have a client.
Didn't have a client.
I did not have a client. My sister-in-law took a pity on me. She became my first client. So I saved the check she wrote to me. I didn't cash it because I'm like, this is my first check I received.
Awesome.
My husband made me a wood frame. You know, he
That's
likes to do
cool.
work, so I made me a wood frame. So I framed that first check I received.
That's
So,
great.
you know, that's just the story of my life.
Just
Many
go for
times
it.
I just go for it. I start from zero, not sure, not knowing where this is gonna go. But I think with a laser-like focus and that dedication, and also believe in my mission or the value that I present, it always leads me to somewhere nice that I didn't totally expected or planned for. So
And
I'm
yeah.
not worried about that at all.
And you've been in your business now for 9 years, right? Something like that. 9 or 10 years?
Yeah, scary to think about it. Close
I
to,
mean,
yes.
that's I mean, you've already beat the average, right? The average entrepreneur, I can't remember what the stat is, but hey, you've already ran your own thing for 9 years. That's already a major success. And do you have any employees, or you just run it yourself?
I'm running myself. That's another amazing thing is with today's technology, you can manage
Yeah.
multi-millions dollars all by yourself. And of
Yeah.
course, you know, I work with the brokerage firm, so they provide the trading platform, a lot of wonderful back office services that you know, used to you have to hire your own people to do it, but now they can do it with very reasonable cost. So yes, I think technology makes this so much easier to do something like, you know, something like this.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the business you've had. Now, can we talk for a minute too? I know that we're connected through our friend Michelle Ashby, and you, I think, went through her certification to be a board member. Is that right? And can you talk a little bit about your aspirations there around being on some boards? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. By the way, I love Michelle, and she's a serial entrepreneur herself. And
Right.
I was really inspired by her when I heard one of her talks that she mentioned that she's also served as a corporate board member for several corporations. And she described it as this is a bigger table, right? The corporate boards are the biggest table you can imagine, that where most powerful decisions, impactful decisions are made at the corporate level, especially given the economy, the important role the
Mhm.
corporations play in our economy. And she really inspired me, something I didn't think about it before. But, you know, I'm always kind of person, I always looking for new ways to live your life, to looking for new challenges. So I signed up to her certification program. It was very challenging. She's like drill sergeant, you got no break, you know. It was exhausting, but also intellectually stimulating at the same time.
Mm.
After I finish her program, my aspiration is to be able to serve as a board member, to serve on small to medium-sized corporations in the United States. I believe I have a lot to offer, given my
Mhm.
immigration experience, given my over 20 years experience in various sectors of the financial industries, and my language skills. I speak multiple languages, and also cultural background. And also there's needs. We all know that the diversity help improve decision making. And we
Yes.
also know that there's not enough women and minorities sitting
Hmm.
on corporate boards in the United
Hmm.
States. So,
Right.
so I believe I have a lot to offer in this, in this new, I would describe a new path. And at the same time, I also want to be a role model for other young women, especially minority women, to say this is something more of us should be aspired to, and hoping, you know, never be afraid to be aspired to have a seat at the bigger table, the biggest table ever,
Yeah.
to be part of the decision business, decision making process. Yeah.
You know, afraid is not a word that I would ever associate with you, because I don't think you're afraid of anything.
Uh,
You sure got
I'm
to.
afraid, but I manage my fear. Yeah.
Yeah, you sure do. That's for sure. You know, I hadn't thought about it till we started talking. I wonder how many immigrants from China that are female executives set on boards today in the United States. I bet it's not very, I bet that's a small number. What do you think? Probably? All the
Oh, definitely it's a small number. I mean, just women in general is a
right,
small number.
right,
I think it's less than 20% of women
right, right.
are sitting on corporate boards. So yeah, so but as a minority women, there's even more challenging.
Oh
There's
man, yeah.
because
Yep.
something inside information for your listeners that the way corporate boards they're looking for a future board member is because it's such a closely linked network of people, and they all share similar backgrounds and
Hmm.
maybe live in a similar type of zip code. So
Yep.
it's a
Yep.
and they do not. It's not like when they lead a board member, they're gonna post it on LinkedIn. They don't do that. It's very network driven, and I think that kind of model is especially challenging for minority women that
Hmm.
we do not have the traditional career path or not the same zip code or culture,
Hmm. Hmm.
socio-economic background compared to traditional board members. So it's especially challenging for us to try to break into this network to say, hey, here's what I can offer. I have all this
Hmm.
wonderful life experiences and the knowledge and career, exciting career paths that I have so much to offer. But unless you made it known, break into that network, nobody's gonna find you. So
Hmm.
that's especially challenging. That's actually motivated me want to do this even more. So maybe someday I can write a book about it to help other people to say, hey, so here's the secret passageway you can break into this network.
I was just thinking, wouldn't you be the perfect board member for a company based here that, brings in all of their goods from China? Maybe they have a China office, maybe they have employees in China. You know, I mean, you're perfect. You're the perfect board member for that type of company, right? I mean, it's a perfect setup because you understand both cultures. You can speak both languages. I mean, just all of it. It's a perfect match. I would think somebody would grab you up for that pretty quick, for
I
sure.
hope so. I hope one of your listen. I hope one of your listeners will contact me after this.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I appreciate you sharing all that. Thank you very much. So, kind of, wrapping up here, can I ask you a couple of more kind of summary questions?
Sure.
First of all, you've touched on a lot of this already, but I like to ask this question to just about everybody that comes on the show. If you could call that young lady that stepped off the airplane that day, eh, would you tell her? What would you tell her?
What would I tell her? Well, there's definitely one thing I would tell her is do not take a perceived weakness as a barrier for your future success. Learn to
Ooh.
take learn to learn how to turn a lemon to a lemonade. And here's a quick example. You probably noticed, I speak English with accent.
Hmm.
And for the longest time, it really bothers me because, well, sometimes it's because people will react to it, ask me to repeat myself,
I
and
see.
that makes me nervous. And also, people will always ask, when they hear me talk, they will always ask me where I came from. And it's never enough if I say Colorado or whatever. It has to go back to the very town in China where I came from. And I just feel so all those reactions made me feel like I do not belong. I
Ah.
need to do better. And I also had one time in my career, I also had someone told me that he would not recommend me to the next promotion because he didn't think my English was good enough. And
Mm.
so all those things really bothers me. And I spend money. I hired coaches, voice coaches. I hired English teachers, just try to get rid of this accent, right? I spend all this effort because I feel like this is a barrier, I need to
Mm.
overcome this.
Mm.
And then later I read this article which says, if you start if you start learning another language after age 13, you will never get rid of your accent because by age 13, the way how you speak, the muscles, your tongues, the
Hmm.
movement is
Hmm.
pretty set by your hometown. So when you learn a new language after age 13, yeah, you can master that language. You're just never going to get rid of your accent. Oh, I was destroyed by that article. So I feel like all this effort I spend to try to get rid of it is really just in vain. So I will always be treated as someone who don't belong here, doesn't belong here. I will always be treated as someone who's not smart enough because of it, right? So, but then one day, so I joined the Toastmaster. One of the things I tried to get rid of my accent to become a better speaker was to join a Toastmaster. So one day when I was at the Toastmasters, I was going to give a speech, and one of my evaluators said, "Well, what are you working on?" I said, "The accent. I want to get rid of the accent. Help me with my enunciation." So he said to me, "Why are you so worried about your accent?" He said that if you just enunciate the words and speak a little slower, he said, "I understand you perfectly fine." He said, especially given the topic I was going to talk about that day was on immigration. He said, your accent give you the credibility, when you talk about the specific subjects like immigration. So he said, why are you so worried about your accent? Don't worry about that. It's not important. It's your strength. It gives you the credibility. So focus on other things. And that really opened a whole new door for me. From that day on, I do not worry about my accent at all.
Good.
And so
very good.
If I can see my younger self, I can talk to my younger self again. I would tell her, save your money, buy some, buy a share of Amazon, and rather than focus on trying to get rid of your accent. That's not really important.
Good. That is great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome stuff. One last question. If you could put your core purpose in life into a sentence, what would that sound like?
Make this world a better place.
How are you going to do that?
One person at a time. Basically, like I said, the Red Meadow Advisors is a mission-driven business. I focus on helping each of my clients achieve financial freedom. So when they reach the financial freedom, when they get to live their life in a very meaningful, purposeful way, they're happy and their families are happy. And most of the things they choose to do are things that can make this world a better place. And so that's what I want.
Okay, very good.
To make this world a better place.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational story.
The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews.
Correct?
Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.